how does the East Coast and West Coast compare? This is going to be a really interesting video. Find out a little bit more about America, which is going to be cool. So yeah, let's just straight into this, man.
East versus West. A while back, I did a video comparing the two sides of Germany. Even though the country were united in the late 20th century, many factors still point out deep differences between the two sides of the country. This got me thinking, which other countries have big differences between regions?
Right,
in this
okay.
video, we're going to be comparing two regions of the United States.
The United States is massive.
Versus the West coasts. First, it's important to point out that the two coasts are together the most developed and rich regions of the country. When you compare each or the two together with the country's interior, the numbers speak for themselves. The biggest example is population, with the vast majority living in these areas. But comparing the coasts with the interior would be a little boring because the coasts would do better in pretty much all factors. So I want to take into account the two of them and answer the question, how do the east and west coasts of the US compare? The first differences we should take into account are, I think, geographical and territorial ones. As the name indicates, the west coast is in the west and the east is in the east.
Wait. Okay. Alright. And then the white is just the mid, like just middle of America. Because like I play a lot of games, obviously, gamer. And when I'm playing like talking to Americans or watching Americans or whatever, right? They're always saying like east server, west server. What if you're smack bang in the middle? You just fucked?
The east coast borders the Atlantic Ocean and Canada, while the west borders the Pacific Ocean, Canada, but also Mexico. Being 3 hours ahead, the east coast technically has 14 states, very closely related to the initial 13 colonies that rebelled against the British and first established the United States. One exception, among others, being Florida, which was still Spanish.
They got New York,
W, I chose to
Carolina,
Pennsylvania, and Vermont, making the total of the East Coast 16. I know they're not on the East Coast itself, but it makes sense to me to include them on this list. While the West Coast only has 3 states, some people include Nevada and Arizona in their West Coast concept, but I didn't in this video, and the official West Coast is also made up of Alaska and Hawaii, which I equally didn't include. Interestingly, all of Florida is further south than California. I don't think we can really get this perception when looking at maps. When it comes to size and population, the size of the East Coast is over 1 million square kilometers, made up of the states of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And its population is around 130 million.
Jesus Christ, that's double the fucking UK.
The United States total population. The West Coast size is smaller at 840 square kilometers. Now, it is smaller, but
40% just here, 130.
Not that much smaller, which means that these 3 states are much bigger than many of the other 16, and its population is around 50 million, less than half, almost only 1/3 of the East Coast's, only 15% of the country's total. It's interesting that the sizes aren't that different, with the East only being slightly bigger, but much more populated, showing us how population density in the East is much higher than the West. This map of population density demonstrates that there's a lot more green areas in the West.
What is this right here? This is dense to fuck. That's gotta be like New York, right?
The whole eastern area of the country is much more populated even. There's only a few urban areas in the middle and west of the country on almost a single strip of high density land in the west coast. This likely has to do with the fact that the east was colonized first, and expansion moved in the direction of east to west. First the 13 colonies, then the territory ceded by the British, then the Louisiana Purchase, and then the Mexican cessions. This also justifies another difference between the coasts, which is the existence of older cities and structures. Universities, for instance, are much older in the East Coast, with some dating to the 18th century. California is the only US state in the West that was settled earlier than the rest, but still later than the whole.
This is so interesting.
When it comes to temperature, it varies somewhat equally as you go north and south of each of the coasts. The north is colder and the south is warmer. However, even if temperatures are similar, the weather types are different. In this map, we can see the Köppen climate types in each region. The Köppen climate classification is one of the most widely used systems, first published by German-Russian climatologist Vladimir Köppen in 1884. It divides climates into 5 main climate groups, with each group being divided based on seasonal precipitation and temperature patterns. Here we can see California is mostly Mediterranean type weather, Oregon is the same but less warm, while Washington is more oceanic.
What is the purple? Warm summer Mediterranean. Okay.
Coast, the north is warm humid continental, with the rest being closer to subtropical, although these colors are a little confusing. Before we move on with the video,
Just
quick
a little
message
bit.
from today's sponsor.
Just a little bit confusing. There's just so many colors, that's why.
Not only does it do the best job at doing what a VPN does, keeping your online presence safe, speed, tools that any secure. Go to Nord discount if you need it. Weather, land, Nord is the way to go. Now, back to the video. We've looked at climate, weather, land, territory, organization, and population. So now, how do these people live in those areas? Politically, people on both coasts tend to be more progressive than the interior areas of the country. However,
It's quite
as you go further
balanced.
south in each of them, more conservatism also shows up. The states on the northeast coast are, in my opinion, some of the most progressive in the US, but California itself is as well. The whole of the west coast has Democratic governors, which are also common in the northeast, while the majority of the east coast has Republicans as governors, results that are similar in other types of elections. Economically, the west is more of a center for technological companies and new startups, while the east is more the financial center of the country, especially up north. The unemployment rate is something that changes all the time, but right now it seems pretty balanced between the two coasts. Regarding the GDP, in this map made by friend and
Pretty
partner of the
similar.
channel Statista, we can see the contribution each state makes, percentage-wise, for the national GDP. We can
I want to see
instantly
something
tell
that's like crazily difference between the
East Coast
both.
has a higher GDP percentage than the West. Again, 14-something states versus 3 is normal to be the case. But we must pay attention to California, with the GDP almost equivalent to the whole country of the United Kingdom, being the highest in the country and contributing 14% to the national value over New York and Florida combined.
Fucking
When
hell.
it comes to HDI, the northeast coast is the most developed of the entire country, while all the west coast does pretty well too. The south, which also reaches into the east coast, is the area that does less well. Regarding salary, median monthly earnings are like this. The same thing happens. The north has a higher median income than the south in both coasts. The southern part of the east coast is the one with the lowest income.
Damn. This is in dollars. Average household dollars. Yo, sucks to be in these, man. Shit. Bro, this is going off the scale here.
This is per household and not individual, by the way. But making a lot of money doesn't mean that much if the cost of living is immense. Salaries in New York might be higher, but so is the cost to rent an apartment. This map shows us the average cost of living, and in it we can see that in all of the west coast plus the northeast coast, the cost of living is over 100, which I think means on average it takes more to live than you can earn every month. But besides all these economic indicators, it's also important to take a look at...
Bro, I'm really interested right now. Just looking at this map, you're going to want to live here. Because the cost of living is like, it's a medium here. But you're still getting a really high average income. Where else is good? This is a bad place to be. Oh, wait, no, this is good. High average income. Very low cost of living. This is the best right now. This is the best. Unless we can get green. Oh, I got one. I got one right here. Right here. Ding, ding, ding. Right here is the absolute best. Illinois. I think that's Illinois. Here. So here, Texas and PA are the absolute best to live. The absolute best. Oh, this is also good here as well, but only because it's really high average. Interesting.
Income inequality.
Interesting.
There's a lot of money being made, but most of it is concentrated on a very small minority of the population. This map shows us that information. The Gini index is only reasonable in Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. None of the West Coast is in the green either, with only Washington being okay in the yellow. Back in the East Coast, New York, Connecticut are the worst, along with Washington, D.C. When it comes to the population's characteristics, this map shows us the counties where non-Caucasian people have a high percentage of the population. Both coasts have a high population of Caucasians. Some locations where people of Asian descent are more common, although there are a lot more of these in the east than the west, but the real difference is in the south. In California, there is a high presence of people of Latino or Hispanic descent, something that is only common in South Florida, while the remainder of the southern East Coast has a high prevalence of African American people as
Interesting.
well. This other map, focused on metropolitan areas, shows us how there are many more in the east compared to the west. Regarding religion, there are a lot of non-Hispanic Catholics in the Northeast, but also across all the West Coast. Hispanic Catholics are very present in South California as well. African American Protestants are almost exclusive to the southern East Coast, while
What's the
non-Hispanic
blue?
Protestants are pretty much overwhelmingly the majority across the East Coast, but also very present in Oregon and Washington. In this type of videos, we usually compare army sizes. Obviously, we can't do that here with regions of the same country that have the same army. But we can look at how many people are enlisted per state. In this map, that becomes evident. The East Coast clearly has more enlisted personnel than the West.
Oh
which makes
shit,
sense because
bro.
they have more population.
These guys are sending all they've got to the military. These guys right here, California's like, nah.
A lot of these maps end up showing us the whole of the US states, but I try to focus on the comparison between the ones on the two coasts, since that's what this video is about. So,
Bro,
that is how the East and West...
what's this state?
Since that's what
They're non-existent in the military. What the hell?
this video is about. So, that is how the East and West coasts of the United States compare in a few topics. Geographically,
I feel like I
territorially,
learned a lot.
but
This is a
also
pretty good
in other
video.
Indicators like population, development, cost of living, GDP, among many others that shows us all the aspects in which the two sets of states differ. The comparison is a little unfair in some aspects. Despite their size being similar, the East has way more states and way more people than the West,
Yeah.
and it was settled and developed much earlier in history. But still, the West has been able to surpass it in a few of these indicators.
Really cool.
Are there any other comparison factors I missed? And which other countries?
Really cool ass video right there. Enjoy that one. Hopefully you guys did as well. Make sure you guys use the thumbs up, subscribe. If you guys got any videos you want me to react to, link them down in the comment section below. And I'll see you all in the next video.